सकते हैं यहाँ पर लाल रंग के जोड़े में है वो इतने, और गार्ड ऑफ ऑनर जो है वो दिया जा रहा है इतने, और तमाम जितने लोग यहाँ पर खड़े हो गए हैं। और आपको हम बता रहे हैं यहाँ पर जो है तमाम
सर प्लीज सर
Whose latest visuals coming to you from the national capital's Lodhi Crematorium. It was the final journey that the former Foreign Minister of India, Sushma Swaraj, has now completed, as her mortal remains have now been carried from the BJP national headquarters to the Lodhi Crematorium for the last rites. She was admitted to Delhi's All India Institute of Medical Sciences last evening after she complained of chest pain. She succumbed to a cardiac arrest. She was only 67 years old. Regarded as the People's Minister, the Foreign Minister with a difference, there have been many facets, many avatars to Sushma Swaraj. The common thread that runs through them all is the personal warmth that she shared and her equation with leaders cutting across the political spectrum. Through last evening, since the early hours of the morning and through this afternoon, emotional tributes have been pouring in from not just within India but across the world. Hundreds of BJP leaders and leaders from across the political spectrum have been flocking to the BJP headquarters where the mortal remains were kept for the last respects to be paid. They've now been brought into the Lodhi Crematorium for the last rites. As India bids an emotional farewell to the People's Minister Sushma Swaraj, one looks back at the strong connection that she had with many across India, for merely the fact that she was just a tweet away. And that was one of the many qualities that stand out when one looks back at her storied career. The quality of being extremely approachable and working round the clock to try and help as many as she could. Her eagerness to help is something that all the voices we've been interacting with have shared with us. She was a lawyer by profession, was a Supreme Court advocate before she jumped into active politics way back in the 1970s. Post the emergency, she joined the Bharatiya Janata Party and later became a national leader, also helming the command of Delhi as Chief Minister for a brief stint of just about 3 months. She held several portfolios during her political journey, including the Information and Broadcasting and Health Ministry. Her work as a Foreign Minister stands out for the way in which she was always approachable and eager to help. Prime Minister Modi there seated along with Rajnath Singh, Amit Shah. Prime Minister Modi, remember, also paid a visit to Sushma Swaraj's residence earlier this morning, an emotional visit where he shared some brief moments with her daughter and Sushma Swaraj's husband. Describing her as one of her kind, the Prime Minister was among the first ones to share an emotional tribute last evening, just as news came in of Sushma Swaraj suffering a cardiac arrest and having succumbed to the same. She was admitted to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences last evening after she complained of chest pain. A string of leaders across party lines who have been lining up to pay their last respects and now gathering at the Lodhi Crematorium for the leaders' final rites. Many prominent foreign ambassadors and delegates and heads of states from various countries have also paid their tributes to Sushma Swaraj, remembering her valuable contribution to international diplomacy and strengthening of India's foreign relations. A host of messages that have been trickling in since last night, remembering Sushma Swaraj and the many moments that stand out in her storied career. And how can one forget her spectacular speeches, both inside Parliament and outside, for the manner in which she steadfastly safeguarded India's interests at the world stage, and for the strong equation that she shared with political leaders from the opposition camp as well. Raj leaves a legacy of an easily accessible politician who helped Indians abroad in distress with her quick responses on Twitter. No matter what the time, she tried to make sure that help was always available and was just a tweet away. Former Foreign Minister of India, BJP veteran leader Sushma Swaraj passed away last evening at the age of 67, leaving behind a rich legacy. She is being cremated with full state honours this afternoon at the national capital's Lodhi Crematorium. Her mortal remains were earlier kept at the national BJP headquarters for party workers and leaders to pay their tributes. One of the things that always stands out when one looks back at the illustrious career of Sushma Swaraj has been her strong connection with leaders cutting across this political spectrum. That's something that has been talked about by the multiple voices that we have been discussing the many facets of Sushma Swaraj with. She's been described as the People's Minister, as one of the most approachable ministers that the country has seen. A one of her kind is the label that the Prime Minister had given her last evening when he shared an emotional tribute just moments after the announcement came in of her untimely demise. It's been called a glorious chapter in Indian politics coming to an end. These are the emotional visuals that we're getting to you as we join the country in bidding a final goodbye to Sushma Swaraj. She's been described as also a source of inspiration for millions, not just within India but across the world, for the manner in which she shared a personal rapport the personal bond that she shared with leaders across the board and also with the many lives that she touched, both as her tenure as the INB minister and also especially as foreign minister of the country between 2014 and 2019. Due to multiple health conditions, she had decided to not contest the Lok Sabha elections this year. An emotional message on that front was also shared by her husband during that time, thanking her for not contesting elections, saying that he had been running behind her for several decades now. It's been a 41-long marathon, he described it as, and had thanked Sushma Swaraj at that point. Her husband had thanked her for not contesting elections and taking a break. It's a 41-long political career, but that's just a sample of the manner in which she touched lives of people, not just within India, but across the world. Rajnath Singh, Amit Shah, L.K. Advani, Prime Minister Narendra Modi among a host of leaders who have gathered at the national capital's Lodhi Crematorium for the last rites of Sushma Swaraj. She passed away last evening after she suffered a cardiac arrest at the age of 67. The untimely demise leaving many across the world stunned. Emotional tributes pouring in from across the world, not just from world leaders, but from many who've interacted with her during her stint as the foreign minister at the world stage. She's being cremated this afternoon with full state honors as the country bids an emotional goodbye to the People's Minister. She was the youngest cabinet minister in Haryana at the age of 25, the first woman chief minister of Delhi, a 7-time member of parliament. Those are some of the many labels that are attached with Sushma Swaraj, but the most important of them all perhaps being that she was regarded as the people's minister for always being available, always being approachable, no matter what the time of the day it was. She was just a tweet away, trying to help many across India, across the world. She's a prominent face of women representation in Indian politics as well. A regular feature was an annual lunch or dinner that she organized for female journalists as well, taking that as an opportunity to encourage female representation across multiple fields. She's been a core member of the Bharatiya Janata Party. It's been a decades-long association. But it's not just the politics, of course, that has made her a household name. She's a leader that rose to prominence under the leadership of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, famous for winning hearts across India with her great oratory skills. How can one mention Sushma Swaraj without delving into the multiple moments that the country has witnessed when Sushma Swaraj, through her words, had struck a chord and touched the lives of many. Some of those words resonating even today. As the foreign minister in the first Modi cabinet, her humanitarian approach, her humanizing touch to foreign policy is something that many have spoken about over the last few hours as they look back at that storied career of Sushma Swaraj. This moment marking a final goodbye to the People's Minister who leaves behind a rich legacy. She decided to not contest elections this year, and that was a moment that also had sparked emotional responses from Indians across the world, in fact, who had looked upon Sushma Swaraj as a minister who was always available. And the very reason that she had decided to not contest elections was the multiple health conditions that she was facing. But the decision that was announced had also left many rather not happy with the fact that they would no longer have Sushma Swaraj as their elected representative. But at the same time, she was someone who shared that bond even without being in power. She was someone who was always looked up to, a seasoned politician, a 7-time member of parliament, a 3-time MLA, the youngest cabinet minister of Haryana at the mere age of 25. That's way back in 1977. That's just some of the many milestones that Sushma Swaraj has witnessed, and the country today marking its final goodbye. Let's get in further perspectives as we continue to track the latest images coming in from the Lodhi Crematorium. Joining us on the broadcast is Smita Prakash, editor at the Asian News International. Smita, if we were to look back at the many milestones that Sushma Swaraj has witnessed, she of course was a towering presence in Indian politics in the last several decades. If you were to describe to us the magnitude of the loss that this has been to the Indian polity.
Well, it is a great loss for the BJP as well as the general political landscape of the country. She had, though she was a very diminutive figure, literally, but in figurative terms and in actual terms, her impact was very great. She was a fabulous orator. She was an election magnet. The BJP knew how to use her very well till about 2014 when her health started to fail, and she didn't campaign all that much. But otherwise, when she was in Bellary or in her earlier avatars, when she was in a public speaker, she had tremendous influence on her audience. As she matured in politics, she played a mentor role to so many people, being a guru to so many people, just as she was a shishya of Advani, of Murli Manohar Joshi and of Vajpayee. She left an indelible imprint on governance in this country too. Bureaucrats remember her with great deal of respect in whichever ministry she served.
Right, and considering how bitter, in a way, today's politics has become, Sushma Swaraj was still able to maintain a working relationship and a strong bond with the UPA chairperson Sonia Gandhi, for example, and several leaders across the board. Do you think this was one of the many qualities that set her apart?
I don't really believe that politics today is bitter, and it wasn't so in the earlier generation. Every generation has its share of bitterness. Every generation of politicians bring with them their rivalry, their insecurities, their fights. It's all there in every generation. So there is a tendency to look at the past with rose spectacles and rose-tinted spectacles to say that they weren't as bitter as today's politicians. Not true. There were very bitter rivalries. Sushma Swaraj had very, very strident speeches against Sonia Gandhi. She said that मैं सर मंडवा लूंगी, मैं चने खा लूंगी, मैं जमीन पे सो जाऊंगी, बिस्तर पे नहीं सोऊंगी अगर सोनिया गांधी बनेगी. So she fought tooth and nail, and it was a very, very acrimonious battle that she fought with Sonia Gandhi. And yet she reached across and she made amends, she made friends with Sonia Gandhi, and Sonia Gandhi counted her as among the people that she could have conversations with, regarding whatever, when they were together in social occasions. Similarly, she had very strong words against the UPA government as leader of the opposition. She used shero-shairi to put down Dr. Manmohan Singh. She didn't use sharp words against Dr. Manmohan Singh, but she kind of said that, he was incompetent, but she couched it in very polite language when she attacked Dr. Manmohan Singh. But don't think that she was in any way not a sharp politician, sharp as in astute and sharp with her tongue as well. And that was needed. That was absolutely needed when, with so many years sitting in the opposition, the BJP needed somebody like her to attack the UPA and to attack the Congress governments.
Right. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi laying the wreath and paying his final respects to Sushma Swaraj as the nation bids a final goodbye to the People's Minister, the Foreign Minister with a difference, someone who blazed a trail in Twitter diplomacy, some of the many labels that have been associated with Sushma Swaraj, but one common thread that runs through all of them has been the personal warmth, the bond that she shared with leaders across the board, and the manner in which she touched the lives of millions across India and across the world. It's been a political career spanning over 40 years, an emotional moment, of course, for not just the BJP, but for the entire Indian political fraternity, as they pay their last respects to Sushma Swaraj. She was the youngest cabinet minister of Haryana at just 25 years of age, the first woman chief minister of Delhi. Those have been some of the many milestones that Sushma Swaraj had witnessed in her storied career. A 3-time MLA, a 7-time member of parliament. And how can one forget the multiple moments that struck a chord when she addressed the parliament, the multiple speeches both within parliament and outside that stood out, and those words resonating even today.
परिवार यहाँ पे दिख रहा है। पहले जो बातचीत करी है यहाँ पे लाया गया, तो मैं आपको दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि किस तरह से यहाँ उनकी बॉडी को इस मंदिर में रखा गया है। यहाँ पे पूरा जो है वो आर्टिस्ट की गई, और ये जो सामने वाला बैठे हैं इस तरह से यहाँ पहुँचे हैं।
Sushma Swaraj was admitted to New Delhi's All India Institute of Medical Sciences last evening after she complained of chest pain. She suffered a cardiac arrest and was declared dead last night. She passed away at the age of 67. It's not just the politics that made her a household name. Of course, a leader that rose to prominence under the leadership of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. It's been a decades-long political career, but also the manner in which she touched the lives of many across India and across the world. Her approachability, the manner in which she was always available, just a tweet away. And that's one of the many qualities that stand out when one looks back at Sushma Swaraj, the People's Minister. A seasoned politician, a 7-time member of parliament, a 3-time MLA. She became the youngest cabinet minister of Haryana at the mere age of 25. That was way back in 1977. This is Sushma Swaraj's final journey. She passed away at the age of 67 last night, leaving behind a rich legacy. There have been several facets to Sushma Swaraj, from being a young cabinet minister to being the information and broadcasting minister to being the Delhi chief minister to the foreign minister. But the label that stands out amongst them all has been that of the people's minister, someone who was always available round the clock, no matter what time. Just a tweet away, that was the message that her association with the foreign ministry carried, and that's something that has lived on. The humanizing touch that she added to foreign policy, and that's something that leaders across the world who've been speaking with us have been sharing. She was one of her kind. That was the label that Prime Minister Modi had given last evening when he paid his emotional tribute to Sushma Swaraj, just moments after it was announced that she is no more. She went on to become a practicing lawyer in the Supreme Court. She also became closely associated with the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, the student wing of the RSS. That's how long back her association goes. She was, of course, a student political activist as well. She later became a member of the BJP, and that was the starting point of what would be a glorious political career. She went on to become a 7-time member of parliament, a 3-time MLA, the youngest cabinet minister of Haryana at the age of 25 way back in 1977. One of the many milestones that are associated with the storied career of Sushma Swaraj. She decided to not contest elections this year, and that was one of the moments that also was talked about. One of the many messages that stood out at that point was the one that came from none other than her own husband, who thanked her for not contesting elections this time around, calling it a 41-year-long marathon, saying that he had been running behind her for all these years and it was time that she took a break, owing to the multiple health conditions that she had been facing over the last few months. She had decided to give this year's elections a miss. Even that decision had left many disappointed across India, given the personal bond that she shared with Indians who she had reached out to during her stint as foreign minister. She was one of the most approachable ministers, as she's rightly been called the people's minister, only being a tweet away, working around the clock to try and help as many Indians as possible as during her stint as foreign minister between 2014 and 2019. An emotional Prime Minister. One of the many messages that have been sent out by Narendra Modi, one of them calling her one of her kind, and that in a way summarizes who Sushma Swaraj was. It's been a deep, long-running association that she's had with the BJP, but a bond that she shared with leaders across the board. That's something that those from the political fraternity have been talking about, and which is why it's been regarded as a collective loss for the Indian political landscape. And how can one forget the multiple moments when Sushma Swaraj, through her words, had struck a chord both within Parliament and outside, known for her great oratory skills. Those have been some of the many facets to Sushma Swaraj. Her untimely demise leaving the entire world stunned. She was admitted to AIIMS last evening after she complained of chest pain, succumbed to a cardiac arrest. She was only 67 years old. Tributes have been pouring in from across the world as world leaders, dignitaries, diplomats remember her as someone who shared personal warmth and also the humanizing touch that she added to foreign policy. One of the last tweets that she put out was on Article 370, saying that she was waiting to see this day in her lifetime. That was just a few hours before she had to be admitted to Delhi's All India Institute of Medical Sciences after she complained of chest pain and succumbed to a cardiac arrest shortly after. From reuniting families to helping citizens recover their passport, travel home from war-torn countries, every request for help, no matter what time in the day or night, Sushma Swaraj was always available, just a tweet away, and that's one of the reasons why we've seen the kind of emotional tributes that have come in over the last few hours from not just within India but across the world. She was also a former Supreme Court lawyer. She was born in Ambala in Haryana. Her father was an RSS member, and so she was brought up in a political atmosphere. She then went on to become a member of the BJP after she completed her graduation in political science and completed her LLB from Punjab University. Her first stint in the political field started out when she joined the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad in the 1970s. And from that moment onwards, there was no looking back. She went on to become a 7-time Member of Parliament, a 3-time MLA, the youngest cabinet minister of Haryana, only aged 25. That was way back in 1977. It's just some of the milestones. Of course, the list is long, but those, in a way, tell us of the multiple facets that Sushma Swaraj embodied. She was, of course, someone who has been regarded as the people's minister, rightly so. Leaders across the board got the opportunity to pay their last respects earlier in the afternoon when Sushma Swaraj's mortal remains were first kept at her residence, after which they were taken to the BJP headquarters in the national capital. These are the latest images that we're getting to you from an emotional goodbye that India is bidding to the People's Minister Sushma Swaraj, who passed away last evening at the age of 67 following a cardiac arrest. She's been described as an ambassador of Indian culture, someone who cared for Indians like a mother would, a motherly figure, and that's, in a way, a summation for us of the way in which she struck a chord and touched the lives of many across India and across the world. Leaders across the board have been gathering first at Sushma Swaraj's residence and now at the Lodhi Crematorium to pay their last respects to Sushma Swaraj. A tall leader who combined extreme dignity with a professional competence and compassion. The tricolour Indian flag was etched in her heart, her unmatched oratory skills, a saviour of last resort for stranded Indians. Proactive, caring, those have been exemplary leader, people's minister, a great parliamentarian, a great orator. The list is long, the multiple facets that describe Sushma Swaraj and the rich legacy that she now leaves behind. It's an emotional moment. It's been an emotional few hours, in fact, for India as they come to terms with the collective loss, not just for the Indian political fraternity, for the Indian political landscape, but for Indians and many across the world who were touched in many ways by Sushma Swaraj and the many proactive measures that she took to try and reach out to and try and help whoever sought her assistance.
टीम को चलिए क्या कर रहे हैं लिखता हुआ वो मैं देख रहा हूँ मुझे भी तो मालूम है अरे क्या
The former Foreign Minister of India, Sushma Swaraj, cremated with full state honours at the national capital's Lodhi Crematorium. An emotional goodbye as leaders cutting across the political spectrum have been paying their last respects to Sushma Swaraj, who passed away last evening after she was admitted to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. She suffered a cardiac arrest and succumbed to it. Her untimely demise leaving Indians and many across the world absolutely stunned. With that, we're taking a very short break. Much more coming up on the other side. Stay with us.